Okay, so we have some issues here in Green Bay. We're now sitting at 3-3 after starting off 3-1. We just lost to the Jets at home at Lambeau Field in a game that we should have won. I think people expected us to win. We were like, 7.5 point favorites coming into this game. And we lose to the Jets 27-10. So now in the year 2022, we've already lost as many games as we lost the previous 3 years. So clearly there are some issues here going on in Green Bay. And I think if we look at this game against the Jets, I mean, there's so many different things that went wrong. And I'll of course, go through all these things and discuss it. But, I mean, just to be sitting at 3-3 right now, losing back-to-back games against the Giants and the Jets, who I think were teams, at least before the season, we expected, like, we should have beat these guys. Props to the Jets. They played a great game. They clearly have a very talented young team, and they shouldn't be overlooked because they've got some talent, and they were really able to bring it to the Packers today. So when we look at this game, the first half, it was one of the slowest, it was just one of the sloppiest halves of football. I mean, punt after punt after punt after punt after punt. The first half finished 3-3. And the biggest takeaway I have from the first half was from this Packers defense. So last week, of course, the discussion was in losing to the Giants without their 3 receivers, the Joe Barry's defense were playing super passive. Lots of guys were sitting back, playing 10, 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, Jair playing off. And we heard Joe Barry this week, as I discussed in another video, talking about how he wants to be more aggressive. The reporters were asking about Jair playing, up closer, more press man, like on the line, and Joe Barry said that they will do more of that. And we really saw that in the first half. The Packers really shut down the Jets' defense or the Jets' offense. Jair was locking up his guy. He was following Garrett Wilson around a lot. We saw Eric Stokes and Jair playing up on their man a lot. And this Packers defense in the first half honestly looked incredible. The offense, on the other hand, looked absolutely asleep. Pretty much the entire game. We only had 1 touchdown with a total of 10 points, which was a nice pass to Allen Lazard. But the first half, the Packers couldn't do anything on offense. The second half was pretty much a similar scenario. And if we take a look at this game, Rodgers goes 26 of 41 for 246 yards, 1 TD, 0 interceptions. And one of the biggest issues for this offense this game was our offensive line. The first half was especially terrible. The Jets were doing little, things where you move your guys around, whatever it's called. I'm blanking right now. But they were just finding a way to get to Aaron Rodgers the entire game. Elton Jenkins struggled at times, had some holding penalties, Royce Newman as well. And Rodgers was getting smacked time after time after time. Had basically no time in the pocket back there. We already knew he came into this game with a thumb injury. And you could see, it seemed like the entire game that was bothering him. He was able to make a lot of nice passes, but you could see him after lots of plays holding his thumb, holding his arm. He was taking a lot of new hits as well this game. So the Packers offensive line couldn't do anything. Another big discussion this past week was, last week the Packers sort of abandoned the run. And the idea was, today we'll see A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones get a lot more work. In the first half, Aaron Jones only had a total of 4 touches. If we look at the totality of this game, the Packers only had 20 carries for a total of 60 yards for 3 yards per carry. So 41 passes to 20 rushes, which is, obviously a lot more passes to runs. Sorry for my refrigerator in the background here in my garage. But the issue was when we were running the ball, it wasn't successful. Quentin Williams was dominating the line of scrimmage. The Jets' D-line was absolutely manhandling this Packers offensive line. We only had 20 carries for 60 yards, averaging 3 yards per carry. So, sure, I would have liked to see Aaron Jones have more than 9 carries, but if we look at those 9 carries, he only had 19 yards, so averaging 2 yards a carry for Aaron Jones. So clearly the running game just wasn't working. A.J. Dillon, 10 carries for 40 yards, 4 yards per carry. So the Packers offense just honestly couldn't get anything going. We only had a couple drives where we really did anything. The nice pass to Lazard for a touchdown. But besides that, offensive line couldn't do anything. Rodgers was having trouble connecting with his receivers. We already are without Christian Watson, who missed this game with a hamstring injury. Randall Cobb goes down as well. And it was just lots of sloppy football from the Packers offense. Really, the entire game, you're sitting back there wondering to yourself, is anything going to happen? Is this offense going to catch fire, have some sparks? And there were a couple plays overall, but if you look at this game, it was just a very poor performance. And so now looking at this team at 3-3, there's clear, this team, it's going to be tough if we continue playing at this level to be one of the top teams in the NFL, even in the top half of the NFL. Because if this offense can't move the ball, if we continue to struggle as we did today, overall the passing game as well in the rushing game, it's really going to be really tough for this Packers team to be a competitive team here in the NFL. Clearly, we need things to change, and obviously the Packers could get things together and start, slowly putting together some more wins. But if we aren't able to fix what's going on right now, it's going to be a long season for the Packers. Because watching this game today and last week, I mean, as Packers fans, we're used to, especially the past few years, I mean, for a long time. Honestly, majority of my life, I'm used to seeing the Packers dominate a lot of the time. And so it's really odd to come into, back-to-back games and you're sitting there the whole game being like, oh my gosh, are you serious? What's going on? That's basically how I felt the entire game. Just it's like, goodness gracious, what is going on? So it's not to say, everything is over. Things can change quickly. We've seen teams in the past start off terribly, get a winning streak going together. When the Packers won the Super Bowl, they were 8-8, 9-7, something like that. They were in the wild card team that year. So things can still turn around for this Packers team, but right now things are not looking good. If we just look at these past 2 games, not looking good whatsoever. Let's hope that Matt LaFleur can come in here. The Packers can fix their offensive line issues. And then we look at the Packers wide receiver situation, of course, Devontae leaving, the Packers young receivers here, that was the big question. And right now, things just aren't working. I mean, partly it hurts, of course. Sammy Watkins injured. Maybe he'll be back in a couple weeks. Christian Watson injured. Randall Cobb injured. So we're just really lacking in the wide receiver area. And so I think right now, especially with all these injuries and the way this offense is struggling, it might be time for Brian Gutekunst to say, you know what? We're not getting it done on offense right now, clearly. These past 2 weeks show us this. Maybe we need to go in and make a move for an Odell if he would even want to come to Green Bay. Right now we're struggling. I wouldn't. If I were Odell and I was looking at other teams, I may not pick the Packers right now. But maybe Brian Gutekunst can look around the league, see if there's any other wide receiver options that could potentially be on the trading market. I'm just thinking through things right now because if we continue playing as we are, we're not going to be successful. We're not going to do what we want to do and make the playoffs or dominate in the playoffs, which we really, I think, expected to coming to this year. So I think it's partly just has to do with a young team here, especially on offense, trying to get things together. Hopefully things will start to click eventually. But I also want to say props to the Jets. They had a really good game. One area, too, I want to focus on now because I was sort of going on the offense for a while, the Packers. Looking at this Packers defense. So overall, in the passing game, which is one area, at times we struggled last week, especially on the crossing routes. That seemed to be cleaned up for a majority of the game. Zach Wilson only was 10 for 18, 110 yards, with 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So the Packers secondary played really well. Really nothing going for the Jets, receiving game, passing game. The running game, on the other hand, especially came to life in the second half. Overall, the Jets ran the ball 33 times, 179 yards, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Especially those past couple of drives, we have I think it was the first touchdown of the game. We have the little end around to, was it Berrios, I think, scored a touchdown. We then, of course, have the Breece Hall touchdown run for 35 yards. Quay Walker sort of over-pursued on the first guy. Breece Hall just comes in, runs around, breaks the tackle from Devondre, runs into the end zone. So last week we were able to hold Saquon Barkley in check. This week the Packers couldn't really do much against the running game in the second half especially. So lots of issues there to clean up on the defense. Of course, it hurts when your offense isn't sustaining long drives consistently. The defense is obviously out there a lot longer as well. So there's obviously lots of things to clean up on the defensive side of the ball as well. Luckily, we cleaned up the passing game mostly, but the running game, rushing defense, wasn't playing great, especially in the second half. The other thing, too, if we look at this Packers special team, so the first half, things were going well. The Packers actually had a blocked punt, which I was thinking to myself, man, what a different Packers special teams. We're coming in here, we're blocking punts now, and then the second half comes around, and a punt gets blocked, a Pat O'Donnell punt gets blocked, returned for a touchdown, and I'm sitting there having flashbacks to the San Francisco 49ers game, and everything I thought in the first half, I was like, well, shoot, maybe we don't actually have a good special teams unit allowing a touchdown. So that obviously hurt us as well. So there's some inconsistency on the special teams unit. Great to have the first half blocked punt, but when you allow another blocked punt for a touchdown, that sort of cancels it out. Obviously a lot worse. So there are things to clean up in every single phase of this team. And I think that for years we've been so used to the Packers offense dominating time and time and time again. Now without Devontae, that is just not the case. I just think that we need some, I don't know what the answer is in offense. I think if the Packers knew what the answer was, they would be fixing it, but there's a lot to clean up here for the Packers. We're sitting at 3-3, and we're just not used to losing back-to-back games. Now we got it. We're experiencing this. I'm experiencing this for the first time in a while. Losing back-to-back games in the regular season, sitting at 3-3. So I still believe we can get it cleaned up. All hope is not lost, but right now it's not looking good. Please let me know your thoughts, your solution. Maybe Matt LaFleur will read the comments. Probably not, but you never know. So feel free to give some advice. If you have some knowledge you would like to share that maybe the Packers need to know, comment it down below. But that's all for today. I'm going to go watch the Bills Chiefs game and, hope my fantasy team can at least win. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll be out with videos all week as usual, so subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.